Well, good evening, everyone, on this warm summer evening. My name is Richard Waring, and I'm the host of the meeting series. So happy to have you here tonight. We have two wonderful features, Linda and Eric. But first, I would like to perhaps titillate with a few erroneous or perhaps misleading headlines from recent newspapers and other publications. This one just in, Iraqi head seeks arms. Police begin campaign to run down jaywalkers. Enraged cow injures farmer with axe. Teacher strikes idle children. Juvenile court to try shooting defendant. Really, they don't quite get it. You know, it's words are tricky. If strike isn't settled quickly, it may last a while. Red tape holds up new bridges. Man struck by lightning faces battery charge. I feel a little guilty laughing about that one. Kids make nutritious snacks. Wow. Jonathan Swift, here we come. Two more. Local high school dropouts cut in half.
Not a bad idea.
Lastly, hospitals are sued by 7-foot doctors. Hospitals are sued by 7-foot doctors. Depends on how you pronounce it. The emphasis. Okay, well, our first feature, Linda Lamenza, is a poet and literacy specialist in Massachusetts. Her work has appeared in Lily Poetry Review, Nix's Mate Review, San Pedro River Review, the Comstock Review, Ovinique, Siamo, and elsewhere.
You should send an
Her
email.
chapbook, Left-Handed Poetry, was a finalist for Hunger Mountain's May Day Mountain Chapbook Series. Feast of the Seven Fishes, her first full-length book, was published by Nixon in 2024. Please help me welcome Linda Lamenza.
Sorry, I'm on an iPad and it's new for me to maneuver. Thanks so much for coming. It's a nice little crowd. And I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land from which I speak to you is the unceded territory of Indigenous people, the Massachusetts,
At library
the Pawtucket, the Agawam, and Nipmuc people.
Stand the three of you want, right?
I would also like to recognize that they cared for and stewarded this land for generations before my family came to live here. It's also known as Maynard. I'm going to read some from this is my newer book. Whoops. It's like all blurry. There it is. Feast of Seven Fishes. Can you see it?
Hold it near your face.
Near my face. Near my face. How about that?
Side by side with your face.
All right. Well, anyway, I'll put a link in there. I'm going to read from that book, and then I'm going to read only one from my left-handed poetry book, and then some new stuff. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening. My mother's pane de España. What I wanted was to become less neutral. I wanted to distinguish wet from dry, sugar and egg yolks at low and at medium speed, to purify powder from pebble. In one bowl, grief, in the other, peaks of strength. Pour together, sit and watch myself through the stained oven door, flour dusted in a heap. Wait, pull away from the sides of that pan, rise high above the rim, rest before the serving, turn the house upside down. In praise of vanity. This morning, a sea hag startles me in my bathroom mirror. She looks just like me. Crow's feet frame her chocolate eyes. She looks nothing like me, a purple band of courage tattooed on her brow. She regards me with admiration, her flowy silver sea hag hair determining my worth. She looks into me, or maybe it's through me, all the way to what I do not recognize as myself. Another ambulance daydream. I was in our kitchen making sauce, garden tomatoes simmering in their well of loneliness. I was dancing barefoot on the schooner Hindu, watching the coast soar by, playing flute on the quarterdeck. I know we walked through Provincetown. I drove, you flew. Eggs Benedict at Cafe Edwige. I lose myself at the song of myself among the intimate photographs of strangers. I know I am somewhere between earth and sky. Mila, go get grandma. Mom? Sorry, you guys, my dog's pacing. All right, my next poem is I work on I teach on an Air Force base, Hanscom Air Force Base. I'm a reading specialist, and there's a lot of special things about the students there, and they have special circumstances. A lot of them move often, and I need to tell you about an acronym so that you can understand this poem. It's the acronym is PCS, which is an acronym for Permanent Change of Station. These are orders given to military families to relocate. It's sometimes used as a verb, as in Sergeant Ortiz and her family will be PCSing in October, something that happens often at our school. So this poem is called My Biggest Fan is PCSing. He waves to me from his booster seat in the back of his mother's car. 4-year-old Okazika, little brother of a kindergartner, both endeared themselves to me with a gift of mint tea in December. He sings my name perfectly. Ms. Lamenza. No small feat for a little one, not even old enough to come to school. When a different teacher takes his big sister out of the car at morning arrival, he requests that his mom drive around the circle again so he can wave to me from his seat in the back of his mother's car. This is a COVID teaching poem. To school board regarding remote teaching, fall 2020. It may appear ideal to teach students from my home, but keep in mind, I'm actually sitting here alone. No laughter up and down my halls, nor quirky comments said, no colleagues to exchange a look. I've got my dogs instead. Dread for my in-school teacher friends, our overload of tech. It's hard to keep politics hidden. emotions in check. Fact is that most of us would do anything for our kids, but why should it include contracting COVID? Remote, far apart in space, says dictionary.com. The space between doesn't feel like freedom.
Mm, mm, mm.
Climbing wall. Strapped into the climbing harness, my daughter's legs poke out like when I wore her in the baby Bjorn. She searches for the rubber pegs with her feet, grasps them with her hands, makes her way slowly up, checks to see I'm watching. From 29 feet above, she dangles anchored to another kid on the ground. Our matching brown eyes meet. Her instructor shouts, "Touch the ceiling," and she does. This is a cento, which you know is made of a lot of other poems. And so I used three of my favorite poets. You will recognize Emily Dickinson, Barbara Helfgott Hyett, and my friend Eric Hyett. A cento. This is my letter to the world, my enemy. A poem with no images, trauma with an endless tale. At night, ocean separates herself from sky by sound alone, poetry suffering, lost in the corridor, consolation gathering like wind, falling from the cloud where I've been gathering. I hold something back all the time. Some of us hang on with tender majesty, a leather-bound edition of ourselves, the gray smell. Doesn't anyone remember the formula for prayer? Faith is the fulcrum on which ice turns, the simple news that nature told a fragment of something. In the city, when you can't see a single star flashing her steel gray eyes, the darkness burns through, alone in the village of unsolicited advice. Judge tenderly of me, hands I cannot see, the mystery that holds sky turns the color of melons. April break. Bleached, beach-colored smooth by sand and salt, washed in angry gray waters. Dear driftwood, at times broken and unseen, you weep like a tsunami, bear witness to storms, humans, all sorts of evil. You strive to stand out among all the shiny shells. I did these in reverse, but this next one is February break. I know April comes after February. February break. To keep from sobbing, use the last of the sourdough starter to make focaccia. Cull books and pack for donation. Water plants. Vacuum, dust, repeat. Text 20-year-old daughter to drive safely in the snowstorm. Eat too much, followed by too little. Buy 50% off Valentine chocolates. Wash bedding, scrub toilet, rearrange office space, vacuum, dust, repeat. Try to nap on pull-out sofa, unload dishwasher, vacuum, wash kitchen floors, clean up fireplace ash, mark up love poems as erasures, feed the paper shredder, relocate to a different room. Watch only comedy on television. Do online yoga twice in one day. Practice Warrior 2. Brace yourself. While gardening, in the woods behind our house, grief grows wildly, all the lush and heart-shaped leaves I need. Grief embeds itself into the root systems of strawberry plants, takes every inch of earth, tries to strangle the perennials. I gently gather the strawberry plants at the base with my left hand and tease out the clumps of grief with my right. I pitch that grief hard toward my bucket. Menopause. Stand out smooth by sea and salt. Angry gray scrubbing, evident by your distinct cracks, your skull, horns. Paint your body scars from vicious storms and calamity. Your triumph is your ugly. This poem is school. My students' propensity to eat Cocoa Puffs for lunch, chocolate milk poured over. It's how long it takes Ayla to get out of her car at morning arrival, her mother's deployment yesterday to Southeast Asia, leaving after drop-off. It's the way military kids hold doors open for every authority figure, and how, just like at every other school, boys use pretend guns at dismissal. It's the first grade girl who clears a classroom with one gesture, hands held high, chair overhead, ready to hurl. And the way she tries to connect with me by slamming the door to the room where I am over and over, until I am so unnerved that I drop my phone under the table and hurry my students out. Sophie is everywhere, my student laments. This poem is Sophie, and how many times she has moved from base to base. Her next move to Arizona is coming up. She will leave behind her dog. Snapshots. It says an epigraph from Joan Quan Glass, who's one of my favorites. If you haven't read anything by her, you should. I'll put her name in later. This is a quote from one of her books. 1,000 versions of me swim in the growing depths, searching in vain for a way out. In the photo albums on my shelf, a scant 7,000 snapshots, 7,000 versions waiting to be acknowledged. They are made of steel or thatch or salt, but all of them pure me. I am a summer barbecue, a camping trip, a swim, the ocean in which fractals host the inner self growing, portraits spawning, stretching into depths beyond me, searching for the one true me in pages of pictures. I'm not vain, just wishing and waiting for something to happen, a sign, the way to me, a way to break out. In praise of the school cafeteria. Bless the first graders whose tiny fingers need help opening their milk cartons. Celebrate the joyful cacophony and quarrels over whether a kid has ice cream money or not. Bless the ever-present scent of hash browns, even when there's no sign of them on the menu. Salute the seating charts stained with chocolate milk and ketchup. Bless the flimsy napkins not thick enough to absorb a spill. Laud the lunch ladies ladling chicken soup into styrofoam cups, occasionally pausing to sing in chorus, "Take only one scoop." Bless the spilled fruit juice pooling around the lunch tables. Give thanks for Taco Tuesday, French toast sticks, nachos, and chicken patties. All will be nourished here. Okay, I'm just going to read you one more from Feast of the Seven Fishes, and I'll put some information on how to get it when I'm finished. So the last poem I'm going to read is called Tarot Cards. Tarot cards. Temperance framed on the trattoria wall. I tarocchi minus the winged arcana. We order wild boar, pizza con l'uovo, a decanter of wine to share on a bench with strangers until we are full. From my mind, I draw a card, courage, cross the Ponte Vecchio, toss into the Arno one by one my many moods, purple, blue, white. We watched the tourists in the Uffizi courtyard pose smiling next to the twin of Michelangelo's Davide. Both of us could pass for real in this crowd. Unbridled, the church bells of Santa Trinita rise from the river's affection, at ease, singing effortlessly home. At Bar Hortensia, empty both of my pockets. Make room for joy. Thanks for listening.
Great reading. Thank you so much, Linda. And since you have a lot of poems about human relationships and food, I hope you will submit to this call for poets poems about food and chocolate that I posted on the PoemWorks website. Fantastic. Up next, we have Eric Hyett, who is a poet and Japanese translator from Boston. As a poet, Eric is the author of 2 books, Aporia, 2022, and The Painful Adventures of Pericles, 2025. Eric is also a co-translator of 2 award-winning books of contemporary Japanese poetry, Kiryu Mindishata's Sonic Peace, 2016, and Toshiko Hirata's Is It Poetry? And I know I butchered those names, so Eric can make better do of that. Please help me welcome Eric Hyett.
Thank you so much, Richard. You were fine. Your Japanese is great. And everybody, I've been using the captions feature, which is great. On Zoom, you just go at the bottom and you click show captions. So as fun as that was, when Linda read all this Italian, she was reading the tarot and she said pizza con l'uovo, which came out pizza con Louisville in the captions. So that's what you get. Let me just explain what's going on. I'm going to screen share for a second. Here, share. All right. Can you guys see the cover of my new book?
Wow.
So that is the cover of my new book, The Painful Adventures of Pericles. The book designer's name is Sasha Wizansky. She's the daughter of our own Margot Wizansky.
Wow.
So what is going on here? I wrote a book, then I wrote another book, and then I wrote a third book, and I realized that I can publish it all as one, as a trilogy. So that's what's going on. The Painful Adventures of Pericles is 3 entire books of poetry that I wrote over about a 15-year period. I just took my life story and I mapped it onto a Shakespeare play that is very obscure that almost no one has ever seen or read, called Pericles, Prince of Tyre. Now, this is a weird enough play to begin with. I think that, to be exact, Pericles is probably the Shakespearean equivalent of an action movie. People made fun of this play during Shakespeare's lifetime for being too popular. It was published 5 times during his life. People could not get enough of the sort of quirky, action-filled plot. And in the end, I've determined that it's kind of a comedy in the sense that Pericles loses his family, he gets shipwrecked, he fights a bunch of battles, gets shipwrecked a second time, and wouldn't you know it, but almost the whole family comes back to him in the course of the play. So technically, that's kind of a comedy. Anyway, here we are. I decided to map my life story onto Pericles, Prince of Tyre. So I thought I'd read you guys a little bit from each of the 3 books within the Painful Adventures of Pericles, just so you get the idea. Let me just dive in. But actually, I want to start with the poem from the very last section of the book. It's called Texting with My Middle Finger. Texting with my middle finger, after Linda Lamenza. My brother has no idea I'm in the ER. He texts me a photo from Mexico. a balcony railing above a series of closed swimming pools, an empty beach. My finger feels exactly like those palm trees blown sideways by 80 miles an hour wind. I text back, looks beautiful and windy. No punctuation. Punctuation hurts the most. Linda texts me, I'm depressed, which makes me smile. And I text her back, anxiety equals depression. It's worth the extra painful taps to get that equals sign right, which makes me smile. Okay, before I go back into that book, I just felt, that was a perfect segue between Linda's book and mine. Um, let's dive into the early chapter of the book, the first book of the three. That is a book where it starts out with me pretty much in jail. And yeah, so that first book has a lot of stuff like that going on. I had what's its name? ChatGPT picked some good poems for me to read to you guys from that one. Actually, it was Google's Notebook LM. I just fed it the PDF of my book. I encourage you all to do this. Stick that PDF into an AI called Notebook LM. And I said, help me pick a selection of these poems to read tonight. So I don't know if Linda used that to pick any of hers, but I doubt she did. I definitely used it to pick some of mine. Okay, let's see. Here we are. All right, this is what the AI thinks you guys might like. The writing. They arrested the writing as it disembarked from Frankfurt. They locked it in a briefcase, carried up an elevator where people stared as they do at a cancer patient with paper tape over his eyes. They refrigerated it with the rolls of film and somebody else's sandwich. The writing was too smart to complain. You don't belong here, they flattered. Offered it whole milk by the carton, potato chips from the enormous bag. It knew better than to eat. It asked to smoke, and the corrections officer struck matches one at a time. Tenderly, it seemed, but afterward betrayed. They called it names. Inhuman, they said. Piece of shit, they said. The writing was unflappable, but they were the law and couldn't quit. They sat the writing on a wooden chair, made it read aloud, Homer and Sylvia Plath, all the classics, Dostoevsky even. How's that for writing, they tormented. Withered, the writing wept like a drowning man, saved first by lightning, then by lighthouse, by dumb luck and sail. Let's see. On the Yard. It's fun for me to read these poems after like writing them so very long ago. It's been a while, but now there's like new book coming out. There's new energy. So it's kind of fun for me. On the Yard. I don't mind taking pleasure in this. 5, 19, 20, 28. Just the regulars for the yard today. I stand outside my cell for the search, arms up against the overpainted metal door. Now handcuffed behind my back, palms out. Now walking the dark tier, past prisoners, silence, future, the sleeping baby boy. Officer Evans gripping my arm almost gently as if I were his son. He unlocks the door, red, that reminds me of my elementary school, and now the other door, and now we're outside where yellow grass defeats the asphalt. Wind and overcast today, and for the first time it smells like fall. Look, look, one man shouts, and we look. A laughing gull has beached itself on wire, its body shedding twisted hollow feathers onto earth. To a mouse at Rikers. And it starts with a little epigraph from Robert Burns, the best laid schemes of mice and men. Robert Burns. We could go on and on from Skye to another Scotland, that darker Scotland at the farthest end of far, to the outer Hebrides, to a croft house dark and tight as an envelope, folded, sealed with a metal stamp, the thick smell of solitude. A corncrake calling its thatched song outside by midnight daylight, the black sheep grazing slow as bread, and slow as the lone piper we've grown to expect at every turning of the highway. Slow as Inverness, the storm-swept road along Loch Ness, and the loch itself, brown and sick, and ocean gang aft agley. Saltless waves, the sad-eyed monster, that captive, that perfectly harmless thing. So anyway, the first book goes on and on like that. I described the series of all this as 5 years of grieving, 5 years of loneliness, 5 years where things start to come back together. I want to give you a little bit tour of the loneliness just because, like, there's nothing better than writing poems of loneliness. You really should try it if you haven't. Um, and let me see what I can do for that. What does the computer say I'm supposed to read you guys on that one? Here we go. Oh, and yeah, hang on. There we go. I wrote this poem in Montpellier, France, where I'm heading back to teach this summer. Solid state, and it starts with a little epigraph from the French poet Mallarmé. Separate me from my tattered clothes, and I go naked like a god. I'm in love with my ancient VCR. Its silver cylinders, white rectangles, its squeak and whir and standby mode, and soothing metal coolness. It smells of dust and air. It has a childhood somewhere, a hollow inside, in rooms that changed with seasons, full of years in spinning. It has opinions on my taste in porn and doesn't express them. At night, it's contained like the universe in its solid state that vacillates as I do between readiness and irony, like keeping my socks on during sex, or sometimes my shoes. Robot Diary 3016Q1, alone. I'm interested in people and their feelings. Lately, for fun, I've been experimenting, mapping my inputs to human feelings. Anxiety seems to come close when I'm in sleep mode and limited in what I can do. All memory shuts down to zero, just me and the system clock and the blue LED I keep on like a low voltage human hope, and everything in me waits for the press of a button. I'll read you guys one more from that book just so you get all the vibe of it. You know what I mean? It's nice to like have this opportunity. Robot Diary 3022Q2, Wake Turbulence. Oh, and you guys will see this is a sonnet, but it's missing a line. Like it's a 13-line sonnet. Wake Turbulence. If you become the air, then I'm the sky. A dive bar where we sip plutonium, and I'm 757 heavy on snow approach to Phoenix, vectored in as you tweet the desert, catastrophe in search of wind, in search of casualty, these nights when math is pain. It's been decades since we were not just young, but grand piano beautiful, duets where you were my co-pilot, Mozart in A major, your fingers over mine in aerobatic measures, thinner than thin. No one survives such perfection. No one. And I'm going to jump to the third book, which is a love story where I basically like the wounded hero. He's been through all this shit, been to jail, fought a bunch of epic battles. And then like the last thing is to like have a love relationship. So the last book is a pure romance where my neighbor and I fall in love and move in together. And that book's called Across the Street because we were living across the street. So I'm just going to read you one section from that. It's technically one long poem, and then I'll end my reading with on that. So I'm going to go ahead and read you Majestic Summer, which is just like a part of that third book, Across the Street. Yes. It's really fun to share this with all of you, I have to say. Majestic Summer. 1. On Thursday nights, I leave my place behind after I teach poetry. I tend to sleep at Teddy's place, while my workshop table resonates with the energy of everybody's poem, everybody's response to everybody's poem. and whatever's left of the poem we studied. Tonight it was Kay Ryan's All My Horses, the grief, the smell of the city without stars. 2, tell me one thing. If Teddy and I are going to succeed with this relationship, we need belonging and the ritual of telling each other one thing that stood out about today. For Teddy, it was the lady on NPR talking about race. In my case, it was Clara, my dental hygienist, who today gave me a cleaning so thorough, she said she was sorry afterward, and I said, Cara, don't apologize. Some things are supposed to hurt. Every direction's all mixed up now. I'm not of the underworld any longer. The kind of love where Orpheus ventures in search of Eurydice turns out heartbreak every time. Above us, the sky world, fireworks, satellites, the moon, outer space. And below us, the Earth's new polarity, the iron core's shifting magnetism, the compass no longer pointing north. The male anatomy, the way flowers always try to fuck each other on the breakfast table, a stamen there, some pollen and a pistil there. The Trader Joe's tulips Teddy bought that drank all the water in the jar overnight, then threw open their leaves in lust and thirst all before we'd even woken up. Our morning would go basically the same. Woven. We have achieved this through the motion of our bodies through the night. Me on my port side, Teddy holding me, then me on my starboard side, holding him. Teddy has woven all my worry into a driftwood basket that holds me safe. Alicante. For 2 days this week, I was turned on by everything. The summer breeze, a seascape, a memory of sex I read once in a poem by Jacques Prévert called Alicante, an orange on the table, and you in my bed. Dr. Ruth. Talk so calmly about sex on NPR. You must stimulate the clitoris, she'd say, as I listened in my childhood bed. Hers was a sex-positive message to my formative years. 10:11 p.m., penises. 10:12 p.m., masturbation. And use lubricant, always so formal that way. How lustfully the digits on my bedroom clock radio flipped into place. And the last segment of this is called About Baggage. I love a first-class man like Teddy, who knows my flaws, can work around them unromantically, without promising to love what's broken in me, but handle me like airline baggage, sort my daily moods into oversize or overheavy, quick transfer or priority. Thank you.
Just great. Wow. And here you are ending on travel, baggage, about to go to France. Wow. Awesome. Love it. Okay. Wow. What a great set of readings. I'm going to invite something like 9 of us to share their reaction to these 2 features and read a poem. So first up, I'd like to welcome Kerry Loughman.
Well, my reaction to these 2 readers is wow. I've heard none of Eric's work before, and I'm just like, wow. And Linda, it was lovely to hear the poem, all the poems, but the poems that we workshopped. It is always lovely to hear the finished product. So thank you both. And I'm reading one of my latest, which actually just got accepted by Lily Poetry Review.
Fabulous.
Yay. Yay. It's called Mistakes were made. A jar of Kalamata olives tipped. Overnight, scant liquid dripped its way across the fridge's bottom shelf, insinuating self into every crenellation of cheap plastic parts. Was it fast or slow, the spread? Into the orange net bag of mandarins, and down to the apples and honey bells in the fruit drawer. Speed equals distance divided by time. My husband is tense with my evident lack of anger. His was the rushed fluster of stowing the condiments away. We now count our days by diddly chores and reframes of the past, every dimension cursed with doubt. I think of moment. How easy it is to welcome this disaster as foreseen and due. I think shatter as I take apart the bottom shelf, separate glass from polymer, scrub with dish soap, and a fist of badger in my throat. Beside me, a pile of paper towels stained Merlot grows. I think blood. I think distance across time and place. I think grief. Thank you.
Wow. Awesome. A poem at length. Fantastic. Up next, please welcome John Engstrom.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I wanted to thank the two readers. I think they were absolutely phenomenal, each in his or her own way. The piece I'm going to read was inspired by an ultrasound procedure, and its title is Transthoracic Echo. My heart pounding sounds like 1. A sea monster gargling mouthwash. 2. Toilet water sucking and slurping as you go at it with a rubber plunger. 3. The steady lap and overlap of waves against a dry dock. 4. Blood red water rapids. 5. Shaman drums deep and booming across landscapes. 6. A science documentary about a poet's aorta accompanied by an Aeolian harp. Myth time, present time, historical time. I watch my heart throbbing on a screen in black and white. The grainy image jitters and jumps. I pretend it is an abstract 20s film made by a surrealist. Then I pretend it is I Love Lucy. Next, Bullwinkle. The heart is not a lonely hunter. The heart is TV for lonely kids. Thank you.
Fabulous. Wow. Thank you. And now, here is Clara Silverstein.
Hi, I'm really happy to hear both of these readings and to hear work from people that I've seen quite a bit at Free Writes. And I thought tonight it'd be fun, given how I'm connected with Linda and Eric through Free Write, to read a poem that started off in a Free Write. And the prompt was, why did you move to Boston? And here's my answer. What's mine, I built from squares and rotaries, eyebrow windows and dovecotes, striding in tough boots that stand up to slush and salt, lacerations of snow in my face, servers rushing through my coffee order. What's regular and what's not? I wanted to leave languor, gouged out war trenches, the mansion my grandfather built and lost to the bank, schools that skewed the view of history, crepe myrtle bark that peeled like scabs. A blue line highlights the route I follow now, thicket of roads and riverways. I can turn off. lose myself. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. And now, David Miller.
Yay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. And yeah, thanks from me also to Eric and Linda. I'm really glad to hear what you brought this evening. Very, very glad to hear that. And actually, now, Richard, here's just the utterest coincidence, but given that you read all those headlines, I was recently going through an old file folder of really old newspaper clippings.
Uh-huh.
Right, backstory, whatever. But and I don't know if you can read this, but I saved this. Can you all read that? Actress Patricia Neal, good with soup.
No.
This is from the 1970s at some point, and I thought, do I need to keep this little piece of paper? But now I realize why I needed to keep it. There we are. Okay. And now to change the mood altogether, this poem has a number of words in quotation marks, so I'll do the usual air quote thing. If it's not one thing, it's another right between the eyes. Words faint from shame, prayers, compassion, fraud, spew after spew. One of my old professors asked, "What is a thing?" We stared at the thing he said. If too many things, there will still be another thing. Sewer backup flooding the zone. We avoided the professor's face. Now, who can see what we surely do see? Here are some things. One damned whir after another. Don't look up. Manned, unmanned aircraft. Another thing. Blackberry clouds erupt. House fled downstream. We're finally on our own. Measured, fair, balanced, debate. Call it like it isn't. That's a thing. Items. Cliff edge. My old fear of falling. Why are these gray worms flying about, Professor? If it's not one thing, not a thing, is it what? Spike at the throat? Hidden lesion? Say, it is what it is, not. The both sides of dead coins like Indian head pennies. Name one thing I can put between my fingers. Decency, maybe. Don't laugh. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Up next, Ruth Hoberman.
Classic mistake. Sorry, forgot to unmute. Thank you, Eric and Linda, for wonderful readings. Linda, I've heard you read before, and I was impressed. And Eric, I've been hearing about you for ages, so I'm delighted to finally hear your work. I'm going to read a poem called "When My Husband Asks Why I'm Depressed." When my husband asks why I'm depressed, I ponder the sun-spotted lawn, the faithful sleeping dog, the lush red gold of the copper beach. Ruth, you dunce, I tell myself. The weather's beautiful, and most of those you love are still alive. An alphabet of disasters in the news, I tell him. A for arrest, and so on. The way computers pull you in and hours later, you're even closer to 80 than you'd been. Shoulder pain when changing clothes. The lack of email from friends. Cryptocurrency. The inability to find amid the foliage the warbling vireo I know I hear. My poems, their terrible teeth and crumbling brown leaves. Obscure silences at open mics. Well, don't go belly up, my husband insists. Imagine silver scales submerged, the lure of quiet. No, I say, but still. B for balaclava, C for corruption, D for deport, and so on.
Wow. Love this. Love this. And now please welcome Lee Varon.
Well, thank you so much. And it was wonderful to hear both of the featured readers, so different, but so wonderful in their own way. So I guess this is sort of following on Ruth's poem in a way. There was a call out for writing a poem, imagining 1 year after the 2024 presidential election. And I wrote this: Dear poetry, dear crumbling heart, the crumbling will continue, chunks like icebergs calving into obsidian seas. You can barely feel your fingers as you warm them over small fires. There has been a year of darkness. There will be more. Some will resort to prayer, Hail Mary, praise Allah, in the name of, and so on. Dead angels will wash up on shore. No longer able to communicate in customary ways, you will embroider by hand these messages few can decipher. Things will be erased, cut off, cut out. Barking at night grows closer, and cups of Ambien will not drown it out. You will have to extemporize going forward. The maps have been destroyed, the words destroyed. You will learn halting guttural sounds to speak new poems with your stump of a tongue. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Woo. Up next, Kathy Whitham.
Right. So enjoyed hearing Linda and Eric very much. So this is a shift of mood, and it's a poem for spring. A change of season. First robin, cheer ups, a feast for my hungry ears. Spring dawn speaks early. Inexperienced leaves quiver, aroused by wind insisting on spring. The sky weeps soft tears, bulbs suckle on soggy earth, lilies sprout then flare. Obvious to see, the man in the worm moon, undeniable, the haikus moving toward a sonnet. Now we're here, impossibly, life's urge to reappear.
Great. And now, Margery Silver.
These were particularly wonderful readings. And thank you so much. I guess we've just heard a spring poem, so this is really a summer poem. It's called Tomato Season. July, juicy, scarlet, shiny as Grandpa's bald head, slick with sweat. He's picked early tomatoes from the patch, his tiny, generous garden by the railroad trestle. I lift a tomato from the peck basket on the latticed porch, wash off the specks of soot from trains that cross the trestle. Perfect tomato slices, exactly 3, fit on a slice of soft white bread, a little salt, more bread on top, pink juice runs down my chin. August. A bushel of firmer, larger tomatoes from the weekly farmer's market. Perfect for canning. Now Grandma sweats. The tomatoes boil in an immense aluminum pot. She lifts them from scalding water, slides the skins off, returns them to the pot to heat again to boil. Then she ladles them gently into mason jars. Lined up on wooden shelves in the cool cellar, they will wait for winter. One unsealed jar is reserved to make tomato gravy. At dinner, the cone of my mountain of mashed potatoes spills out gravy, molten red. September. Grandpa's bargain, 2 bushels of tomato, ripe nearly to rottenness. Up from the cellar come the glass quart bottles and the bottle capper on its cast iron base. An attached metal rod, like a giraffe's neck, bends forward. Grandpa fits a loose cap on the bottle's tip, pushes it into the hollow disc at the end of the rod, pulls down the handle, crimps the cap tightly around the bottle's neck, places it on the kitchen counter to cool. One bottle is chilled in the ice box. We drink cool tomato juice from jelly jars and swallow the last of summer.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Margery. And now, Margot Wizansky.
Hi, everyone. It was great to hear you again, Linda. And I loved the poems about your classes, your kids, and their siblings. And that was a great reading, Eric. I can never remember which poems I read and which I didn't at these Friday nights. Did I read, Richard, did I read What Makes Love Endure?
I believe so, but I want to hear it again.
Oh, all right. Okay. What makes love endure? At dinner, someone said, it's will. No doubt speaking of his own marriage. A 4-letter word, bland and colorless. My will is concrete and steel. My wish, my desire, my inclination, my appetite, my willingness to have you in my life. If this is a poetry of will, it has no music. Willpower might stop me from binging on chocolates, but I don't need willpower to stay with you. I'm more than willing. You willed me back that night, and I owe you. Another kind of will, my last one, leaves you everything, and you can get rid of it, all my stuff. The other day, you told me I'm willful, as if I wear the head of a pig. We have to exercise our will together. Neither of us can do it alone. Every morning, we choose to turn our faces to the sun. Our will, like trees rooted deep, though changes happen, trees grow, bend and sway, steadfast until they fall. Let's will ourselves to enter the future, incomprehensible until it's upon us.
Awesome. Love it. And our penultimate poet tonight, Wendy Drexler.
Hey everybody, what a great night. Loved hearing you, Linda, and Eric. What a delight. I remember those robot poems. It's so great that you're publishing this, and just loved hearing the work. It's gonna be a great book. This is just called Poem, and this was a prompt with lines from Muriel Reichhauser's poem called Poem. I lived in the first century of world wars was her opening line. So I took phrases from her poem and kind of wrote my own poem off of it. Poem. I lived in the first century of the Anthropocene. Most mornings, my first 6 decades, I hibernated in my yippee cocoon, didn't think about the climate at all. Most of the species that became lost, like the Mariana fruit bat of Guam, I'd never heard of, so loss need only be imagined, not really felt. I would call my friends to talk about what so-and-so did or said, took up making macrame plant holders, made a table plan for the wedding, protested Vietnam, never got arrested. The difficulties were burgeoning, but in logical ways that would be possible to fix. Slowly, I would come to care for individual creatures. I monarched my children from caterpillars and raised monarchs with my children. Passionately, I ripped invasive swallowwort from a chain link fence. Once I rescued a praying mantis from the floor of Star Market. In the day, I would be reminded of time sweeping us forward. As the lights darkened, the dark sky zones were disappearing. I'd read about Darwin's marvelous finches, knew the dinosaurs and dodo birds had gone extinct. But now everywhere whales were dying, bees were dying. I heard someone say a species goes extinct every 9 minutes, but I didn't stop to count the minutes. Who could complain of sweater weather in December, a downpour instead of a blizzard? AI would propel us to reach the limits of ourselves, some believed. I would be bewildered by so much caring and so much carelessness, by the skunk cabbage that kept punching through dead grasses every spring, the microscopic mounting losses and meatless meat, burning hills and rage, and the steady march of protests, the recently extinct pinto giant tortoise, and the bravado of bringing back the woolly mammoth to a would-be life on a planet we would hardly have time to get to know. I lived in the first century of the Anthropocene.
Fabulous, Wendy. I love insect rescuers like you. So thank you for that. I want to mention that the July reading will not happen. I will be in France with Eric and others. So the next reading in this series will be August 1st with Gloria Monahan and others. I will end this with what I didn't know I would write, but I posted about a call for poets to write poems about chocolate. And then I realized I'd actually made chocolate from scratch in Ecuador. So this is my latest poem, which I know for sure no one has heard. Making chocolate in Ecuador. Where mountains rise above the clouds, I go into the rainforest to find a coca tree. What looks like a toy football stapled to a trunk is a red pod that contains the beans. With my machete, I slash it in half, pull out fruity lumps, remove the flesh, and leave only the seeds. These I roast over an open fire in a cast iron pan on top of 3 foundational stones, father, mother, and child, the primal rocks of this land. When the beans pop like popcorn to announce that they are ready, I remove them from the flame and break off, discard the flaky husks that surround the beans. I put the moist kernels in a grinder and am greeted by the aromatic pudding, addictive, euphoric, aphrodisiacal. I fold in sugar and grind again, this time finer. Such delight to peel a rainforest banana, dip into this favorite food of the Aztec deity, a gift to lift body, mind, and spirit. Well, another fine time with poetry. An evening not wasted on sweating and sitting in front of a fan with ice cubes. Any final remarks?
Thank you so much, Richard, for hosting us. It's always really amazing.
Oh yeah.
Joy. It's been a joy.
Yeah.
This evening is a treasure.
Have a good time in France.
Oh, it's going to be wonderful.
He's
Wow.
taking Linda and me with him this year.
What is this? Is this a workshop?
It
Yes.
is, yeah.
You leave.
Hmm?
We're going to be there the end of June, beginning of July. And
That's wonderful.
it's going to be wonderful not being on a continent with the current president. We can just write whatever we want but without fear in the land of Joan of Arc.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to know if Bart still has those bowls with the little boats. in
Oh,
them.
I bet he does, Wendy, but
Yes.
we'll make sure I'm
Okay.
pretty sure nothing's changed.
Okay, you send me
Absolutely.
a photo.
Come with us next summer, please.
Be great.
Okay.
So nice
too
that
late.
this program has revived.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody. Thank you
As
again.
Eric said,
Thank you.
recovery is
Wonderful.
Thank you. Great
Good to see you.
Bye,
Yep.
everyone.
Bye.
night.
Bye. Thank you.
Stay strong.
I don't know. I don't